Hello, I'm Pip Courtney. Welcome to A Taste of Landline, where we showcase where our produce comes from and where it ends up. Coming up, we're off to school with man's best friend.
I've been with my dog pretty much since he was a pup.
The perks of urban agriculture and growing the perfect wine to wash down oysters.
Bang! Wow, this is such a match with oysters.
G'day, my name is Ananth Gopal. Sadly, chronic unemployment is a fact of life for refugees who resettle in Australia. In fact, only 31% find jobs after 5 years. But urban agriculture might be a solution. In the suburbs of Wollongong, south of Sydney, this 5 hectares of land was thought to be worthless just 3 years ago. The community-focused social enterprise, Green Connect, has turned an overgrown creek line into a thriving organic market garden. More than 2,500 native trees, shrubs and grasses have been grown here, as well as 200 fruit trees. They're now growing more than 50 varieties of herbs and vegetables commercially.
So guys, this morning we're going to be picking this rainbow shard as a loose leaf and we're going to bag it up the top. So Sume, you might need to do that.
Wait.
Yeah, you're good to cut.
Every week, Green Connect's workers harvest for around 70 customers. The ethos here is fairness. Fair food grown sustainably and a fair go for refugees and young people struggling to find work. So today I'm a volunteer here. In my day job, I'm a geographer at the University of Wollongong School of Geography and Sustainable Communities. And I study urban agriculture across the world. And what's brought me here to Warrawong is the unique combination of jobs for communities that are otherwise excluded from employment and growing food in a sustainable and fair way. In the last 12 months, more than 100 refugees and young unemployed have found work with Green Connect's waste recovery business, or developing its urban farm and growing food for trade. Cal Champagne designed the terraced garden system on permaculture principles. So what do we got here, Cal?
So this is like a purple frilly leaf mizuna. So this is something we'll typically use in our commercial salad mix to kind of spice it up and make it look pretty.
It does look pretty. And what else have we got on the ground?
Yeah, so we plant, like this is a 4 seasons garden, so we sell to our customers every week, so we plant every month and we plant the same quantities every month, it's just the variety that changes.
Looking at its abundant terraces now, it's hard to imagine a site once overrun with lantana and prone to flooding.
It's a really steep site, which is kind of why it was left idle for so long.
Yeah.
You couldn't build houses on this, and it's also not considered agriculture land. So we've done heaps of work terracing the site so that it can actually be navigated with a wheelbarrow. And doing that also means that we can make the most of the water that falls onto the site.
Yeah.
So it's kind of by making these terraces up high, it means we're passively irrigating these market gardens below towards the creek line.
The Green Connect site is on land next to the Warrawong High School and is near the once thriving BlueScope Steelworks. The sprawling industrial complex still dominates Port Kembla's skyline, but it's no longer the region's economic powerhouse. Its future is clouded in uncertainty.
The Illawarra really grew out of the development of mining and manufacturing, particularly coal and steel. And today these industries are shedding jobs and the region's got one of the highest unemployment rates in Australia. And that makes life harder.
Yeah.
General Manager Jess Moore says Green Connect will continue to expand its urban farm, transforming the landscape and the lives of the people it employs.
So we chose to work in industries where a lot of our former refugees are really skilled. So, chemical-free farming, a lot of refugees were subsistence farmers before they came to Australia. And we wanted to give them the opportunity to share their knowledge and skills. We see it as a real exchange.
2 big ones first, yeah. Are they all in the same area? Sume and Emu are Karenni refugees. They lived in a United Nations-run camp on the Thai-Burma border before they were given humanitarian visas by Australia in 2007. So these little guys, Antonio and Elizabeth, I can't remember which one is which, and they're kuni pigs, and we're just going to give them a bit of feed. Just half? Cool. Before coming to Australia, Emu lived every day of his first 17 years in the refugee camp. His only work experience was growing food for his family. So what are the best parts of working here?
I would say 3 things. The first one is happiness. The second one is gives income. And then the third one is knowledge. Yeah. So because I say happiness, because working here helped me to meet new friends, new people. So instead of with our job, we stay home and make me feel like isolated and feel bad about yourself. So working give me happiness. So also I can earn some money, so I can support my family, myself, to buy something that I love.
It's not just about growing traditional food. Preparing it and eating together are also important cultural practices. The tastes of home are a key ingredient for a successful transition to a new life in Australia. They bring a sense of belonging, not just to where they're from, but also to their new community.
It's also give us the opportunity to show it to other people in Australia that they've never seen it before.
Yeah, I've never seen these incredible salads before.
So here we have
I feel grateful to be working with Wollongong's Karenni families. They're warm and generous, and their food is amazing. Simple, fresh and wholesome.
Here's a third dish, which is a beef stew with the kidney beans, and we got fermented spinach and fermented the pumpkin skin.
Wow, I reckon this is the first time I would have had fermented pumpkin skins.
We use everything that we have because back in the day we don't have much. We're striking for survival, so we will use everything, every vegetable that we have. So we put it together and then we make it into a dish.
So zero waste happening.
Zero wasted.
Here in Australia, food is plentiful. But perhaps the unique flavours and farming skills refugees bring with them offer fresh potential for developing more urban agriculture.
Wanted to really test and define whether robotic technology for cattle, such as walkover weighing and auto drafting technologies, could be utilised in the north. You've got to go and put 30 helicopter hours in there at $450 an hour just for the helicopters, not to mention the man teams on the ground, to find out that only 20% of those can now go to market because you got your weights wrong from what you thought driving around, versus putting out one of these systems.
Hello, I'm Cara Jeffrey. Working with children and animals can be a challenge, but it's proving to be a winning combination at a school in southern New South Wales, where students are learning to train their sheepdogs.
Like many country kids, Tom O'Dwyer enjoys riding his motorbike. It's not just for fun, Tom has a job to do. Today, it's mustering the sheep. And he has a workmate, his 2-year-old Kelpie, Con, who's just being introduced to working life. Has Con taught you much?
Yeah, he's taught me to try and control myself with my temper, and if the sheep don't go our way, just stop and start again and try to get the dog to the right thing. Stop!
Tom's fairly sure this is the life for him.
Stop!
Of course, he's still at school, but he's already looking for ways to improve his control of the dog. Fortunately for the 13-year-old, his school has seen the potential too. Area Park Central School has 140 students. They come from local towns and farms, some up to an hour away. The school's motto is play the game. It's all about encouraging children for their effort, preparing them for a lifetime of valuable work.
We were looking for something real and relevant within our rural community, and I guess we struggled initially looking for the right project, but we mapped it back against looking to try and improve kids' social and personal capacities, and that we found as we worked through it that the sheepdogs really ticked every box.
One unique aspect of the school's program is what's affectionately known as Dog Day. There's no shortage of enthusiasm among the students, and as you can see, the dogs are full of energy and ready to work.
Now, when she comes around, I'm going to keep her coming about. She's doing a good job. She's getting the sheep right. She's starting to slow down a bit. I'm going to pick my stop now. Molly, stop. Molly, stop. Relax, pressure. Stand away from her and leave her sit.
Like all good teachers, Justin Dunn, who is also a farmer, has improved his own skills in order to pass them on.
This dog's a lot faster than you, so you're going to have to think quick. Now's your time. In there and stop.
Sit. Now leave her there.
But the school's also brought in a professional. Peter Darmody is a champion on the Australian working dog circuit. He's helping the students fine-tune their skills.
Spice, steady. Students are easy to train because you got them from the start, whereas some farmers, you can get them to train a dog or sell them a dog, and then you've got to sort of train the farmer, teach him to sit, get the chain shorter on your arm.
Hayley's dog Roy is still learning the basic commands.
Roy, sit.
And it appears he's already identified who the boss is.
Roy, sit. I got him sitting without touching him now.
It can feel like a lot of pressure when you're under the eye of an Australian champion. And this group of school students is a real team. The rest of the school is getting behind the Barking Dogs program. There's lots of interesting things happening.
So our sheepdog training program is one of a few projects we run, but it is extracurricular, so we sit that on top of our baseline curriculum. So sheepdogs, we've got our recording studio in our music department.
Even the school's music program has eyes and ears on the dogs. Kindergarten student Jake Berkner is auditioning for a part in the school's song based on the dogs.
Having the barking dogs, yep. Having the barking dogs, yep.
The aim of the song is to kind of like show people how fun this program is. It's not all just work. It's fun, you get out a little bit of school, which is a bit good.
So you got to remember, like I've been training you, the straight line.
The boys are planning to put their dogs to the test in just a few days' time at the local show.
Got him sitting. Righto, what's your command to go?
Tom O'Dwyer is one of those planning to compete.
Yep, hold your gate.
First, they're taken through a gate.
Come round here, that's it. Well done.
Then through a series of obstacles that every farmer would encounter.
A bit again, so just take your time.
And here, competitors must split off the third, fourth and last sheep in the group.
Wrong way around.
It might seem harsh, but Tom loves the pressure and the chance to bond with his dog.
We've got to get that back into him, haven't we?
I've been with my dog pretty much since he was a pup, and he's been pretty handy and good to me, and does mostly what I want him to do, and yeah.
Is he your best friend?
Pretty much, yep.
Area Park is known as the home of bulk grain handling. The main street houses a tribute to the wheat lumper. But this bloke's the only one in the main street today, because it's show day in Area Park and everyone's at the showgrounds for a chance to display their produce or their riding skills. The yards have a fair crowd for the dog trials. And the organiser is happy to see how the local school is generating interest in working dogs.
Probably been well over 20 years since I left Area Park Central School, and yeah, I only wished it could have been going when I was there. In my day, it would have been something that would have relished a chance to have a go at.
Come here, here, Con, come over, come over, come over. Come over, Con, come over. Con, here, come over.
Tom looks like he's improved today.
Stop, Con, come over.
Peter wants to see whether he's sorted out his counting.
Here, out.
And Tom passes the test.
How'd you go, Tom?
Oh yeah, Con did pretty good, but just at the end he split the shape up, which wasn't the best, but he did pretty good.
The pressure's off now, and his family couldn't be more proud.
Daddy, stop, stop.
He also gets to watch the others go through their paces.
Go back, go back, go back. Go back, Daddy, go back.
Back. Stop. No, Rusty, stop. Rusty, come. Sit, sit.
Congratulations, all the boys. You've worked their dogs really well.
Finally, it's time for the results.
And the winner, Tom O'Dwyer.
And look, I think this is fantastic. It's so great to see so many of the community come here and support our young generation, and I think that's what it's all about. And it really shows me how something like this can really connect our school with our community.
School memories are made sweeter by moments like these. But there's one key player missing from this picture. Tom's pup, Con, knows there's a reward coming.
Either planted nursery stock or transplanted fully grown plants. We've done some 21 hectares of other revegetation around the place with fringing vegetation and more forest species. So that's planted close to 50,000 seedlings.
We've got something like 37 species we've recorded here. Before these wetlands were here, I'd estimate there would be about 6.
Hi, I'm Sean Murphy. Oysters, straight off the lease for breakfast. It's really one of the best things about this job. But if I was having these in a restaurant, I'd probably order a glass of wine. For one oyster farmer, finding the perfect match has become a magnificent obsession. The oyster industry on the Clyde River in New South Wales is dominated by farmers with generations of family history. But Steve Folletti knew practically nothing about the business when he bought a rundown lease while working overseas about 20 years ago.
Dreaming about coming back home to the beach and the river and everything, I thought, an oyster lease might be a good thing to buy just for a place to go fishing. And you know, I must remember to go fishing one day.
What he lacked in experience as a farmer, he more than made up for in his understanding of how to market fine food. He'd been managing the Australian Wheat Board's Asian office in Japan.
I was exposed to the Japanese food industry, which is just the most sophisticated and challenging place on earth. And I thought, well, what we'll do is just bring all those lessons from the Japanese food market and the Chinese and the Korean and the Taiwanese market and translate them into what is a commodity, a bulk commodity industry. We will de-commoditise it. We will differentiate it, we will articulate it. And most importantly, we'll enhance, we'll improve the endpoint execution. That is the experience at the table.
Steve Folletti calls himself an affineur. It's a French term for an oyster grower who buys young oysters and finishes them for the market. He leaves the breeding to others.
We find farmers who are absolutely brilliant at what they do. And we're very happy to pay them a huge premium to do it for us and deliver us something to a spec. And what's finishing? Well, you know, it's a deluxe motor vehicle, it's oak Chardonnay, it's smoked cheese, it's adding that extra layer of finish to a product. And so instead of trying to do A to Z badly, we do F to K extremely well. That's our forte.
At the peak of the season, Steve Folletti's company Moonlight Flat sells about 600 dozen oysters a week to 40 restaurants around Australia.
For the boathouse today, we want 5 dozen clear loons and 5 dozen kisses, please. And dill, we need 5 rusties and 5 label rouge.
Every oyster is graded by hand at their Bateman's Bay shed to ensure premium quality. And they're all sold live.
It's a tremendous pleasure to be here in Sydney because Sydney is one of the last great oyster cities on the planet because there's nowhere else that has 3 species of oysters within a 3-hour courier radius within beautiful waterways and served at a fine dining restaurant.
Steve Folletti runs master classes in oyster appreciation at the Boathouse on Sydney Harbour. It's a restaurant that's built its reputation on fresh oysters, and head chef Colin Barker is also a keen advocate of shuck to order.
And it's just a simple wiggle to get into that hinge. When you get there, the shuck should hold itself in. So we haven't had to force it. After that, it's just a simple click of the wrist.
Ooh. Nice pop.
And then what we want is we don't want to tip that oyster on its side too far. We don't want to lose that beautiful liquor that's made its way all the way up from Bateman's Bay for us. So we've got a beautiful oyster there. There's no stab in the abdomen. Then just to sever the oyster from the shell, just release the other side of that adductor. We don't flip the oysters. Commercially, a lot of guys flip them. They're a bit plumper and tends to hide a few sins if you do it that way around, but we serve them just the way that nature intended.
Colin Barker says restaurant customers no longer want their oysters pre-shucked and rinsed.
Once upon a time it was the done thing because it was a really unknown sort of entity. Shucking your own oysters was time consuming, fiddly, no one knew how to do it. But more and more nowadays people are starting to do it and it's more the norm.
And what's the advantage in terms of the flavour?
It's the flavour of a freshly shucked oyster is really unique. You've got to think that each of those regions have got their own environmental factors that are going to come through in that oyster liquor.
Now Steve Folletti has a new mission. It's to introduce Picpoul to Australia's oyster culture. It's a French wine variety grown specifically as a match with oysters. Colin Barker says it won't be a hard sell.
Picpoul for eons has been the oyster wine of France, and over here until recent times it was an unheard of entity.
Can't get any better than this, can it?
Works well, doesn't it?
Steve Folletti says he discovered Picpoul while on a study tour of the French oyster industry. He describes his first encounter as a sensory thunderbolt.
The waiter came up and just said, wine, sir. I said, yeah, thinking, where's the wine list? There wasn't any. There wasn't a choice. It was just Picpoul or nothing. So I thought, oh, never heard of this. Give it a go. Bang! Just flew off the ground. Wow, this is such a match with oysters.
Now, 8 years later, he's growing Picpoul near Cowra in the central west of New South Wales. The road to harvest was long and complicated. Steve Folletti imported cuttings from France, which spent 3 years in quarantine and another 2 years in a cloning laboratory.
So exciting to see what this obscure grape in the south of France is doing out in the hot summer of the central west in New South Wales.
Winemaker Anthony Denisi says the high-yielding French variety is thriving in the Central Ranges region.
Theoretically, it should work, and the proof's in the pudding. What I've tasted so far is very exciting. It is a white variety which does ripen later in the season, so it ripens outside of the heat wave window. So it's quite an interesting variety. It could turn out to be a very good match for this region.
And just as he's done with oysters, Steve Folletti says education will be the key to ensuring Australians embrace pickpool and enjoy what he believes is one of the world's great food and wine combinations.
Totally recommend oyster first, little chew, little maceration, get it going, and then little sips of the pickpool, and it will linger and it will repeat and come back in your mouth. You get your value out of this. It continues on for 10 or 15 minutes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. I never dreamed that I'd have our own wine, and what a match. It's been one hell of a ride, I'll tell you.
And that's the show. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can always see what we're up to and plenty of behind-the-scenes fun on our Facebook page. Next time on A Taste of Landline, storing Australian seeds for the future near the North Pole.
It's a massive sort of vault in the side of a mountain, so you're going in there and it's just an eerie feeling in the context that there's agricultural diversity from around the world.
The special group of top-end growers.
It's a passion now.
And the little dairy that's thrown open the farm gates.
We're trying to give them backstage pass to our farm.